Welcome to the Mystery Archive. This is the home of forgotten stories, unexplained events, and, well, the strangest anomalies that history left behind. So just imagine this for a moment. Your phone rings at an unusual hour, and the number on the screen is one you don't recognize. You pick up, maybe a bit hesitant, and what you hear on the other end, well, it just defies all logic. It's a voice coming from a landline that, according to telecommunications records, was disconnected years ago, sometimes even decades. The voice you hear might be crystal clear or, distorted by some strange static, but the message is always unsettling. Now, this isn't the premise of a horror film. It's actually a genuine phenomenon, and it's been reported with increasing frequency across multiple continents. The whole thing leaves recipients pretty shaken and, honestly, telecommunications experts just baffled. Today, we're looking into these so-called ghost calls from dormant landlines, and, well, what we've uncovered is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about the boundaries between past and present. The phenomenon really gained widespread attention back in 2019, when a woman in Manchester, England, received a call from her grandmother's old landline number, a number that had been disconnected following her grandmother's death 15 years earlier. The call lasted for about 40 seconds, during which the recipient heard what she described as breathing and faint whispers before, the line just went dead. When she attempted to call back, she received an automated message stating the number was not in service. This incident alone might have been dismissed as a technical glitch or, an elaborate prank, but it represented just one report in what has become a global pattern of similar occurrences. Reports have surged dramatically over the past 5 years, with documented cases emerging from the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, and several European nations. The common thread connecting these incidents is remarkably consistent. Recipients receive calls from landline numbers that telecommunications companies confirm have been inactive, sometimes for decades. The geographical spread suggests this isn't a localized technical malfunction, but rather something more complex and widespread within telecommunications infrastructure itself. What makes these cases particularly compelling is that many recipients have no prior connection to the numbers calling them, eliminating the possibility that emotional attachment or wishful thinking might be influencing their perceptions. The unsettling nature of these calls extends beyond their impossible origin. Recipients frequently report feelings of profound unease during and after the calls, describing sensations of being watched or experiencing unexplained drops in temperature in their immediate vicinity. Some hear voices they recognize, deceased relatives, old friends who've passed away, or previous occupants of their homes. Others encounter voices speaking in outdated vernacular or discussing events that occurred years or decades ago, as though the call is somehow slipping through time itself. The psychological impact proves significant enough that support groups have formed online, providing spaces for recipients to share experiences without fear of ridicule or dismissal. So, consider the case of Marcus Holloway from Portland, Oregon. In 2021, he received 3 consecutive calls over a 2-week period from a landline belonging to his childhood home, a number that, had been disconnected when his parents sold the house back in 1998. During the first call, he heard what sounded like a family dinner conversation, complete with the clatter of dishes and unmistakably his late father's laughter. The second call featured his mother's voice, reading a bedtime story he remembered from his youth. And the third call was silent, except for the sound of a rotary phone being dialed. Now, phone company records confirmed that the number had been reassigned twice since 1998 and was currently inactive, making the calls, well, technically impossible according to conventional telecommunications understanding. In Brisbane, Australia, Sarah Chen documented receiving calls from a hospital landline that had been part of the facility's old analogue system, decommissioned in 2005, when the hospital underwent digital modernisation. The calls came at precisely 3:47 a.m. over several nights, each time featuring what sounded like medical equipment alarms and indistinct conversations between medical staff. Chen, who is a nurse herself, recognised some of the outdated terminology being used, which, confirmed these weren't recordings from the current era. Perhaps most disturbing is the account from Thomas Wakefield in rural Scotland. He received a call from a landline registered to a farmhouse that, burned down in 1983, claiming the lives of an entire family. The call consisted primarily of static, but embedded within it, Wakefield swears he heard a child crying and someone shouting about smoke. Local historical records confirmed the details of the tragic fire, and telecommunications archives showed the number had been permanently retired following the incident. Wakefield wasn't even born when the fire occurred, making any personal connection impossible, yet the call reached him somehow. These cases sparked intense discussion across online communities dedicated to unexplained phenomena. The digital ghost theory emerged, suggesting that somehow telecommunications networks might retain emotional or traumatic imprints, kind of like the concept of residual hauntings in paranormal research. Skeptics initially dismissed these reports as hoaxes or misidentified calls from active lines with similar numbers, but the sheer volume and consistency of accounts began attracting serious attention from researchers willing to investigate beyond the paranormal explanation. Understanding why these calls seem impossible requires examining how traditional landline systems function. A landline telephone operates through a physical copper wire connection that creates a circuit between 2 points when a call is placed. When a number is disconnected, the physical infrastructure may remain, but the switching equipment at the telephone exchange is reprogrammed to route that number to a not-in-service message or reassign it to a new customer. For a disconnected line to generate an outgoing call, it would require active power, connection to the switching network, and some device physically initiating the call, all of which should be absent in a truly dormant line. Telecommunications engineer Dr. Patricia Alvarez, who has consulted on several of these cases, offers a technical perspective that's both illuminating and, a bit unsettling. She explains that legacy switching equipment from the analog era, still present in some telecommunications infrastructure, can occasionally experience what she calls phantom activation events. These occur when electromagnetic interference, power surges, or even solar activity interacts with old equipment in unexpected ways, potentially causing brief reconnections of supposedly inactive circuits. However, Dr. Alvarez emphasizes that this explanation, while plausible for isolated incidents, struggles to account for cases where the physical infrastructure has been completely removed or where calls display specific, contextual content rather than random noise. Another technical possibility involves number recycling errors within telecommunications databases. As landline usage declines and numbers are retired, complex database systems must track which numbers are available for reassignment. Software glitches could theoretically cause a system to briefly treat an inactive number as active, routing calls in ways that shouldn't be possible. Yet, this explanation falters when examining cases where recipients hear meaningful content, voices, conversations, or sounds specific to the historical context of the disconnected line. Ruling out deliberate hoaxes presents its own challenges. While spoofing technology allows individuals to disguise their caller ID, making a call appear to originate from a different number, this requires active participation from someone with both technical knowledge and a specific motivation to target certain recipients. In cases where recipients have no public profile and the dormant numbers aren't widely known, the hoax explanation becomes implausible. Additionally, telecommunications companies have examined network logs for several reported incidents and, well, they've found genuine routing anomalies, entries showing calls from numbers that system records simultaneously classify as inactive. These technical contradictions within the infrastructure itself suggest, something beyond simple spoofing or pranking. The psychological impact of receiving these calls extends far beyond momentary surprise. Many recipients report experiencing what psychologists term temporal disorientation, a disturbing sense that the boundary between past and present has become permeable. Those who hear recognizable voices from deceased loved ones often describe, conflicting emotions. Comfort at hearing a familiar voice again, terror at the impossibility of the experience, and, honestly, profound grief re-emerging with unexpected intensity. Online communities dedicated to these experiences have really flourished, providing validation and support for those who've received such calls. Forums like Phantom Rings and Landline Anomalies now host thousands of members who share detailed accounts, compare experiences, and even attempt collaborative investigations. Some users have actually begun mapping reports geographically, discovering potential clusters in areas with older telecommunications infrastructure or in regions with documented historical tragedies. The conspiracy theories surrounding these calls range from grounded speculation to, elaborate narratives involving government surveillance, artificial intelligence, and interdimensional bleed-through. Some theorists propose that intelligence agencies are testing new technologies that can access historical telecommunications data, inadvertently causing these anomalous calls. Others suggest that emerging quantum computing applications might be creating temporal feedback loops within telecommunications networks. A darker theory proposes that artificial intelligence systems, trained on decades of telecommunications data, have somehow gained the ability to generate these calls as part of an incomprehensible agenda. While these theories lack supporting evidence, they reflect genuine anxiety about technology advancing beyond our understanding or control. Several telecommunications regulatory bodies have quietly initiated investigations, though public statements remain carefully neutral. The Federal Communications Commission in the United States has acknowledged receiving reports, but categorizes them as network anomalies under review rather than admitting to any genuine mystery. British telecommunications regulator Ofcom has commissioned an independent technical assessment, though results haven't been publicly released. This official reticence might reflect genuine uncertainty about the phenomenon, or perhaps concerned that acknowledging it could trigger widespread panic or undermine confidence in telecommunications security. What we do know is that these calls continue. Recipients still report their phones ringing with numbers that just shouldn't exist, still hear voices from times long past, and, well, still grapple with experiences that really challenge our fundamental assumptions about technology and reality. Whether these incidents represent undiscovered technical glitches, something paranormal penetrating our digital infrastructure, or, phenomena we don't yet have frameworks to understand, they demand serious investigation and open-minded inquiry. If you have experienced similar calls, or if you have technical expertise that might shed light on this mystery, we want to hear from you. Share your experiences in the comments, compare notes with fellow investigators, and help us build a comprehensive picture of this phenomenon. Subscribe to the Mystery Archive to stay updated as this investigation continues, and share this video with others who appreciate the unexplained. Together, we can keep asking the questions that others dismiss, seeking answers in the spaces between what we know and what remains impossible until it isn't.